My name is Daniel, and what I'm about to share isn't just a story, it's something I witnessed with my own eyes. Something that completely changed the way I think about life, money, and people. It was an ordinary afternoon, or at least it felt like one. I was sitting in a small roadside hotel, the kind where the chairs are slightly broken, the tea is always too hot, and the fan above your head makes more noise than wind. I had no real reason to be there except to pass time. Life had been slow for me lately, and I often found myself just observing people, watching how they lived, how they struggled, how they smiled even when things weren't perfect. Right outside the hotel, a group of daily wage laborers were sitting on the pavement. Some were leaning against the wall, some lying down, and a few were just staring blankly at the road, waiting for work, waiting for someone to come and pick them, waiting for a chance. From a distance, they all looked the same: dusty clothes, tired faces, worn-out shoes. But as I kept watching, I realized they weren't the same at all. Some of them looked genuinely worried. Their eyes had that restless look, like they were calculating something in their minds, maybe unpaid bills, hungry children, or rent overdue. These were the men who needed work. Then there were others. They were laughing, joking, even teasing each other. They didn't seem serious about finding work. For them, it felt more like a place to pass time than a necessity. Maybe they had something to fall back on, or maybe they just didn't care enough. I kept sipping my tea, silently observing. About 30 minutes passed, and then something happened. A shiny car pulled up near the group. It wasn't just any car, it was the kind that immediately grabs attention. Clean, polished, expensive. The kind of car you don't usually see stopping near laborers. Every single laborer turned their head at once. The door opened. A young man stepped out. He looked rich, no doubt about that. His clothes were branded, his watch expensive, and his confidence unmatched. He didn't look older than 25, but the way he carried himself made it clear he was used to being in control. The moment the laborers saw him, everything changed. The tired faces suddenly became alert. The joking stopped. Hope appeared. They all gathered around him almost instantly. "Sir, take me with you." "I work hard, sir. I really need work today. Please give me a chance." Voices overlapped. Hands were raised. Everyone wanted to be chosen. From where I was sitting, I could clearly see the desperation in some eyes and the excitement in others. The young man raised his hand, signaling them to quiet down, and slowly, the noise faded. Then he spoke. "I need workers," he said calmly. "Everyone can come, but I'll only pay $5 for the whole day." For a moment, there was silence. Then reactions started. Some of the laborers immediately stepped back. $5? That's too low. We'll be insulted for that amount. Whole day work for just 5? No way. These were the ones who had been joking earlier, the ones who didn't seem desperate. They started walking away, shaking their heads, even saying a few harsh words about the young man. But not everyone left. A small group stayed. They didn't argue. They didn't complain. They just looked at each other, and then back at the young man. I could see it in their faces. They weren't thinking about dignity, or comparison, or fairness. They were thinking about survival. One of them stepped forward and said quietly, "We'll go." Then another joined him, and another. Within seconds, about 5 or 6 laborers agreed to go with the young man. The rest stood at a distance, watching. Some were smirking, some were whispering, some were probably thinking those men were foolish. But I wasn't so sure. The young man nodded, opened the car doors, and asked them to get in. Yes, he made them sit inside his expensive car. That alone shocked me. The laborers looked confused at first, like they weren't sure if they were even allowed to sit inside. But slowly, they got in, and then the car drove away. I sat there frozen. Something about that moment didn't feel normal. Why would a rich man come himself to pick laborers? Why would he offer such a low wage? And most importantly, why did he take them in his personal car? The remaining laborers started talking again. "Those guys are stupid. They'll regret it. $5? What a joke." But I stayed silent, because deep inside, I felt like this story wasn't over, not even close, and I had a strange feeling that something unexpected was about to happen. I couldn't get that scene out of my head, even after the car disappeared. My eyes were still fixed on the road, as if I expected it to come back any second. There was something unusual about the whole situation. A rich young man personally coming to pick laborers, offering such a low wage, and then taking them in his own car. It just didn't add up. I finished my tea, but instead of leaving, I ordered another one. I wanted to stay. I wanted to see what would happen next. The laborers who had refused the offer were still there, now more relaxed. Some of them were laughing again, mocking the ones who had gone. Let's see what they get at the end of the day. They'll come back tired and broke. Sometimes people deserve what they get. Their words were harsh, but there was also a hint of insecurity behind them. Maybe they were trying to convince themselves that they had made the right choice. Time passed slowly, the sun started moving down, and the heat became less intense. One by one, a few laborers left, probably giving up hope for the day. But some stayed, just in case another opportunity came. And honestly, I was starting to think the same thing they were. Maybe it was a bad deal. Maybe those men had made a mistake. But then, about 2 hours later, that same car returned. My body instantly straightened. The laborers noticed it too. Everyone stood up again, eyes fixed on the car. But this time, something was different. The car didn't stop exactly where it had before. It slowed down, then parked near the side of the road. The door opened, and the same laborers stepped out. But they didn't look tired. They didn't look upset. They looked happy. No more than happy. They looked like something unbelievable had just happened. They were smiling, laughing, even thanking the young man repeatedly. "Thank you, sir. LIAPKOURD. We've never seen someone like you." Their energy was completely different from before. The other laborers rushed toward them. "What happened? Did you work? How much did he pay? Was it hard?" Questions came from every direction. I leaned forward slightly, trying to hear everything. One of the laborers, the same one who had first agreed to go, spoke with excitement. "You won't believe it," he said. "He didn't take us to work at all." "What do you mean?" someone asked. "He took us to a shopping mall." There was sudden silence. Everyone thought they had heard wrong. "A mall?" another laborer repeated. "Yes," he said, almost laughing. "A big one. We thought maybe he had some work there." But instead, he paused for a second, as if even he couldn't believe what he was about to say. "He told us to buy whatever we needed." "No way, I'm serious," he said. "He asked about our homes, our families, what we needed. Then he gave us money and told us to shop." The reactions were mixed: shock, disbelief, jealousy. Another laborer jumped in. "He bought groceries for us too. Rice, flour, oil, everything. And after that," a third one added, "he dropped us home himself." I could see the faces of the other laborers changing. The same people who had laughed earlier were now completely silent. Some looked regretful. Some looked angry. Some just looked lost. "Wait," one of them said slowly. "Did you even work?" The first laborer shook his head. "Not at all." "And how much did he give you?" The answer came calmly. "More than we expected." Much more. At that moment, something shifted in the atmosphere. The air felt heavier because now it wasn't just about money. It was about missed opportunity. One of the laborers who had refused earlier hit his own forehead lightly. "We should have gone." Another one said, "I knew it." Something felt different about him, but deep down, everyone knew the truth. They didn't go because they thought they deserved better without even knowing the full story. And now, it was too late. I sat there, completely silent, absorbing everything. This wasn't just kindness. This was a test, and only a few had passed it. As the evening turned into night, the laborers slowly started leaving. But today, they weren't leaving the same way they had come. Those who had gone with the young man walked away with smiles, relief, and gratitude. And those who didn't walked away with regret, deep regret. I stood up from my chair, paid for my tea, and started walking home. But my mind was still stuck on one question. Why did he do this? Why did he choose only those who agreed to such a low wage? And more importantly, what would happen if he came back again? Because somehow, I felt like he would, and next time, things wouldn't be the same. The next day, I went back to the same hotel. Not because I was hungry, not because I had nothing else to do, but because something inside me was pulling me there. I wanted to see if that young man would come again, and more importantly, I wanted to see what the laborers would do this time. When I reached, the scene looked almost the same, but the energy was completely different. The same group of laborers was sitting outside, but today, no one was joking. No one was relaxed. Everyone looked alert, focused, almost desperate. It was clear they were waiting for him. The story from yesterday had spread, not just among these laborers, but probably to others nearby too. A few new faces had also joined the group, all hoping to get lucky. I quietly took my seat inside the hotel and ordered tea again. But this time, I wasn't casually observing, I was watching closely. Every second felt important. About 20 minutes passed. Then suddenly a familiar car appeared on the road. My heart skipped a beat. It's him. Someone whispered within seconds. All the laborers stood up. No hesitation. No delay. Everyone rushed toward the car. Even before it fully stopped, the young man stepped out, calm as ever, like he already knew what was about to happen. But this time, the situation was completely different. Sir, take me today. I'm ready for any work. I'll do it for even less. Please don't leave me. The voices were louder than yesterday, more desperate, more emotional. Even the ones who had insulted him yesterday were now at the front, trying their best to get his attention. It was almost uncomfortable to watch. The young man raised his hand again, and just like before, silence. But this time, the silence felt heavier, because everyone knew what could happen, and no one wanted to miss it again. He looked at the group for a few seconds, carefully observing their faces. Then he spoke. The offer is the same, he said calmly. $5 for the whole day, this time. No one complained, not a single person. No one stepped back. In fact, some even said, "We agree, sir." Before he could finish. It was clear they weren't thinking about the money anymore. They were thinking about what happened yesterday. Their minds were filled with one thought. Today's our turn. I could almost see their expectations building up. New clothes, free groceries, extra money. An easy day, a lucky break. But then, something unexpected happened. The young man looked at the group, and then shook his head slightly. "I won't take the same people," he said. For a moment, no one understood. "What?" someone asked. "I will take new workers today," he clarified. The laborers who had gone with him yesterday stepped back quietly. They didn't argue. Maybe they already understood something that others didn't, but the rest of the group became even more excited. Yes, take us. We are ready. Please choose me." They felt like this was their moment, their chance, their reward. The young man selected a new group, almost the same number as yesterday. Those who were chosen looked like they had just won a lottery. They smiled, looked at others proudly, and quickly moved toward the car. Meanwhile, those who weren't selected looked disappointed, but still hopeful for next time. I noticed something interesting. The laborers who had gone yesterday were quiet. They weren't celebrating. They weren't jealous. They were just observing. As if they knew something others didn't. The new group got into the car. Excitement was written all over their faces. Some were already talking about what they would buy today. "I'll get new clothes for my kids. I'll finally fix my kitchen. I'll buy sweets for home." They were thinking about work at all. Not even for a second. The car started moving, and just like yesterday, it disappeared from sight. The remaining laborers slowly returned to their spots. But today, no one was mocking anyone. Everyone was just thinking. Hoping. Waiting. As for me, I felt uneasy. Something didn't feel right. Yesterday was too good, too easy, and life doesn't usually work like that. I finished my tea and left, but my mind was full of questions. Was yesterday just kindness? Or was it part of something bigger? And what would happen to those men today? Would they return smiling again? Or would this story take a different turn? I had a feeling that today wasn't going to be the same. Not at all. That entire day felt longer than usual. I tried to focus on other things, but my mind kept going back to the same question. What's happening with those laborers right now? Yesterday had been surprising, but today, something felt different. Something felt of by late afternoon. I couldn't resist anymore. I went back to the same hotel, almost rushing this time. As soon as I reached, I noticed something unusual. The laborers who had stayed behind were already gathered, not sitting, not relaxed, but standing, waiting, watching the road. It was clear they were expecting the car to return at any moment, and honestly, so was I. The sun slowly started setting. Minutes passed, then finally, that same car appeared again. But this time, no one smiled immediately. Everyone was watching carefully. The car stopped, the door opened, and the laborers stepped out. But the moment I saw their faces, I understood everything. They weren't smiling. They weren't excited. They looked exhausted, sweaty, dust-covered. Their clothes were dirty, their movements slow. and their faces filled with frustration. Complete silence spread across the area. The same people who had imagined an easy day were now struggling to even stand straight. The other laborers rushed toward them. What happened? Did you go to the mall? What did he give you? Why do you look like this? No one answered immediately. One of them sat down heavily on the ground. Another wiped his face with his sleeve. Then finally, one of them spoke. He made us work. How much? Someone asked quickly. All day. Doing what? He took a deep breath before answering. Unloading trucks full of stones. A wave of shock spread. Stones? Someone repeated. Yes, he said tiredly. Heavy ones. Big trucks. One after another. Another laborer added. We didn't even get proper rest. Just a short break. Then back to work. The excitement from the morning had completely disappeared. Now there was only regret. But what about the money? Someone asked. Did he at least pay well? The laborer gave a bitter smile. He gave exactly what he promised. How much? $5. Silence. Pure silence. The same number that they had accepted so easily, that they had ignored yesterday, that they had underestimated. Now it felt heavy, unfair, painful. One of them stood up angrily. This is injustice, he said loudly. Yesterday he gave them so much without work, and today he made us work like this for nothing. Others agreed. Yes, this is not fair. He cheated us. He fooled us. Their voices grew louder. Frustration turned into anger. At that exact moment, the young man stepped out of the car. Everyone went quiet again. He looked at them calmly, without any sign of guilt or anger, just calm, controlled. One of the laborers spoke up. Sir, this is not right, he said. Yesterday, you gave those workers so much without making them work. But today, you made us work all day and gave us only $5. The young man listened patiently. Then he spoke. I told you the wage before you came, he said. Yes, but he raised his hand slightly. Did I force you to come? No one answered. You had a choice, he continued. I clearly said if anyone has a problem, they can leave. The laborers looked at each other. They remembered he had said that. But no one had stepped back, because at that moment, they were thinking clearly. They were thinking with greed. The young man continued. Yesterday, I chose those who agreed without hesitation. They didn't argue. They didn't complain. They needed work, and they trusted me. He paused for a moment. Today, he said, looking directly at them, you came with expectations, not need, but greed. That word hit hard. No one spoke, because deep down, they knew it was true. You didn't come for $5, he added. You came hoping to get what they got yesterday, without knowing why they got it. The truth was uncomfortable, but it was real. I kept my promise, he said calmly. I gave you exactly what I said I would. No more. No less. The laborers slowly lowered their heads. Their anger faded, because now they understood this wasn't unfair. This was a lesson, a painful one, but an important one. One by one, they picked up their things and started walking away. Shouting. No arguments, just silence. Heavy silence, the kind that stays with you. I stood there, watching everything, and for the first time, I truly understood what had happened. This wasn't about money. This wasn't about work. This was about mindset, and the difference between need and greed that day didn't just change those laborers. It changed me too. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything in my mind, every scene, every face, every word that had been spoken. It wasn't just another day anymore. It felt like I had witnessed something important, something that most people spend years understanding. But I had seen it unfold in just 2 days. The difference between those two groups of laborers kept bothering me. On the first day, the men who agreed to go didn't ask questions. They didn't argue about the money. They didn't compare themselves with others. They simply accepted the opportunity because they needed it. Their focus was simple. We need work. Whatever we get, we'll take it. No expectations. No assumptions. Just acceptance and maybe trust. But the second group, they came with a completely different mindset. They weren't thinking about the $5. They weren't thinking about work. They were thinking about the reward they had seen others get. Their thoughts were something like, if they got so much yesterday, we'll get the same today. They didn't see the opportunity. They saw the outcome, and that changed everything. I sat up on my bed, thinking deeply. How many times in life do we do the same thing? We see someone else succeed, and instead of understanding their journey, we focus only on their results. We want the same reward, but we don't want the same mindset. We don't want the same struggle. We don't want the same patience, and sometimes we don't even want to listen properly. The young man had clearly said, $5. Both days, same words, same condition, but the meaning changed. Depending on who was listening. For the first group, it meant, at least we'll earn something today. For the second group, it meant, this is just a formality. The real reward will be bigger. That difference changed their entire experience. I realized something else too. The young man wasn't just helping people randomly. He was observing, testing, choosing. He didn't reward people who were loud. He didn't reward people who argued. He rewarded those who showed humility, patience, and need. And on the second day, he showed the others a reality they weren't ready for. Not to punish them, but to teach them. A lesson they would never forget. The next morning, I went back to the same hotel again. Not because I expected the young man to come, but because I wanted to see the laborers. I wanted to know if something had changed. When I reached, the same group was there, but this time, the atmosphere was different, quieter, more serious. No loud jokes. No careless laughter. They looked more aware, more grounded. Some of them were talking softly. I made a mistake yesterday, one said. I should just focused on the work. Another replied, at least we learned something. A third one added, that sentence stayed with me. At least we learned something, because that's what it was all about. Not money, not loss, but learning. Even those who had gone on the first day weren't showing off anymore. They weren't acting superior. They were just normal. As if they understood that what they received wasn't just luck. It was a result of their mindset at that moment. I ordered my usual tea and sat down, but today I wasn't just observing people. I was observing myself. I asked myself a simple question. If I was in their place, what would I have done? And honestly, I didn't have a clear answer. Would I have gone on the first day? Or would I have walked away, thinking $5 wasn't worth it? Would I have learned the lesson the easy way, or the hard way? That thought humbled me, because it made me realize it's easy to judge others when you're just watching. But when you're in the situation, your choices define you. That day, I didn't wait long. I finished my tea, stood up, and took one last look at the laborers. They were still waiting, but not the same way as before. This time, they weren't just waiting for work. They were waiting with understanding, with awareness, and maybe with less greed. As I walked away, one thing became very clear to me. Life doesn't always test you with big moments. Sometimes it tests you with simple choices, small decisions, like saying yes or walking away, and those small choices can change everything. Days passed, life slowly returned to normal, but for me, nothing felt the same anymore. That small roadside hotel, those laborers, and that mysterious young man, they had all become a part of my thinking. Not because of what happened on the surface, but because of what it meant. I went back to that place a few more times, not regularly, just sometimes, and every time I went, I noticed something different. The laborers were still there, still waiting, still hoping for work, but their behavior had changed. They weren't as careless as before. They didn't ignore small opportunities, and most importantly, they listened more carefully. One day, I saw a contractor come and offer them work. The pay wasn't very high. In fact, it was almost the same as that $5 offer. But this time, no one laughed or no one walked away. Instead, a few of them stepped forward immediately. We'll go. One of them said, no arguments, no hesitation. Just a simple decision. And that's when I realized they had learned the lesson the hard way, but they learned it. I never saw that rich young man again. Not once. It was like he appeared for those 2 days and then disappeared forever. No name, no explanation, no return. Sometimes I wonder, who was he? Why did he do all that? Was he just helping people? Or was he teaching something deeper? I guess I'll never know, but maybe that's not important, because his purpose was already fulfilled. He didn't just give money. He gave a lesson about greed, a lesson about expectations, a lesson about opportunities, and most importantly, a lesson about mindset. I learned something too. something I carry with me even today. Not every opportunity looks big. Not every chance comes with a clear reward. Sometimes you have to accept small beginnings. Sometimes you have to say yes without knowing the outcome. And sometimes you have to let go of expectations to truly gain something. Because the truth is simple. People who focus on need grow. People who focus on greed regret. That story didn't just stay outside that hotel. It stayed inside me. In my decisions. In my thinking. In the way I look at life now. And maybe, if you understand it deeply, it will stay with you too.